Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, and we'll be flying solo today as your captain. Producer Richard will make sure we stay safe as our air traffic controller. We might have some turbulence as there's a crazy storm outside. I'm not sure if you hear that or not, but exciting show today. And before we get to that, I'm going to do a bit of business. What's going on, Evan? So I like to dabble with bets to make games that don't feature the Chiefs more interesting, right? If you do the same, be sure to take advantage of this special offer from Caesars Sportsbook. New customers get their first bet insured up to $1,250 by using code ARROWFUL while creating your account. So, hook yourself and the podcast up by taking advantage here. If you haven't joined the Caesars community, what are you waiting for? The season is almost here. Just remember to enter our code ARROWFUL during signup and place that first bet. The offer is only available to new customers who are 21 or older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full offer terms. And if you already have Caesars, head to arrowheadaddict.com/bets to find additional offers and ways to support the pod. All right. Thanks for hanging with me there. I usually have Micro Machines Sterling to rip through that. He is on vacation. Wish him well. We have a new segment to start the show. What's up, Jerome? Let's Go Chiefs is right. This new segment is the Atom Bomb. So we've had Verderants. We've had Sterling moments. We've even had Patty's power rankings. Today, we drop our first atom bomb. So I got to be honest, waiting for real football is killing me. The training camp video hype that just never stops. You know, a guy catching a pass against air, the wild speculation, the fear of stars getting injured. You know, I'm not going to mention their names, but I'm petrified about 3 guys getting hurt. I'm kind of glad one isn't out there right now. And we've talked about that ad nauseum, so I'm not going to talk about the Chris Jones contract situation at all today. But if it wasn't for fantasy football prep, I think I'd be bored out of my freaking mind. You know, sorry, but it's football blue balls out here. It's like waiting in line at the DMV. And it kind of reminds me of my wife and I went to Nashville a couple weeks ago to a restaurant we really like, and kind of a special place that we go together. And by the time we got our entree, it was 2 hours in. They had, you know, the service staff was slow. I think they were just overworked, in the weeds, as they say. And so to get us our appetizers, it was 45 minutes, drinks, entree, dessert. We were there for over 2.5 hours. It was like Oppenheimer or something. And that's kind of what waiting for this season feels like to me. I just want it so bad. It's been 6 months. For me, I'm not a baseball guy. I'm not a golf guy. I don't play it. I don't watch it. I, dabble in basketball, like to watch the NBA playoffs. But football is my everything, and it's just been excruciating. So what I think the NFL needs to do, and I think they're inching towards this, is let's just let's just make the regular season 18 games. Let's just do it. Make the preseason 2 games, give everybody 2 buys. We know you're expanding to Europe and working this way anyway. So let's just pull off the Band-Aid and get it done. I just cannot wait to see number 15 and number 87 any longer. Let me know how you guys feel about the preseason. Some people love it. Some people love the speculation, the training camp hype. They love to root for the unsung heroes and underdogs, the Cinderella stories that might make the team. And I get all that. I like all that. But 6 months is a long time. And think about it this way. If we didn't win the Super Bowl, it would be an even longer wait. So, but luckily we are Chiefs fans and we go deep into the playoffs every year. I mean, think about if you are a Raiders fan, a Broncos fan, much more painful with much less optimism. So let's move into our next segment. This is going to really be a deep dive on really what I think will determine how well the Chiefs do this season and if they can repeat. Wow, it's just going nuts out there. 10 things that will define the 2023 season. And we're going to start with number 10, Steve Spagnuolo's role. And for each of these, we're going to bring back the 8008 countdown. And I'm going to try to get through each of the 10 in 4 minutes. Rapid fire, keep it kind of short today, but kick a lot of information your way. Steve Spagnuolo's role. Wanted to talk about this due to a mailbag question. And the way I see Spags is he is the CEO of the defense. Since he was brought in, I think Andy has done a much better job of the game management stuff, the stuff that kind of plagued him in Philadelphia and a little bit here. So Andy really doesn't have to worry about the defense that much, especially on game day. He can focus on how Kansas City wins, and that is with their league-leading offense. The other thing that I think Steve Spagnuolo does so well is he makes sure that the team peaks late season and into the playoffs. They might start a little slow. They usually do. He treats the first half of the season kind of like a laboratory, right? Where he's integrating younger guys. He's playing with schemes and combinations. And he really, I think, wants to keep it a little vanilla. He wants to keep some cards, some aces up his sleeve for the playoffs, for those big matchups at the end of the season, like the Eagles, Bengals, and Bills this year. And the example I would use is Spags kind of treats the season, a lot of food he takes today, like your Friday diet, right? You get up, you need some fuel, you eat breakfast, you slam your caffeine, you're going to eat lunch too. You're probably not going to do a Don Draper and knock back 3 old fashions at lunch because you got to go back to work. You might have to work out after lunch. Then you have dinner, maybe put the kids to bed. After that, it's time for some whiskey. It's time for some dessert. It's time for wine, maybe even an edible. That's legal now. So I think that's the way he does it. He saves as much as he can for as late as he can. And then he unleashes hell during the playoffs in particular with bespoke game plans. There's nobody, maybe outside of Lou Anarumo of the Bengals, that I would trust more to come up with a one-off game plan for a tough opponent and a tough quarterback in particular. I thought down the stretch with both Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship game and Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, he frustrated those guys. He rattled them a little bit, enough for the Chiefs to hang on to victories in both of those close games. This is just the way I see Spags. I think he is very underrated in the kingdom. When fans call for him to be fired or think we can do better, I tend to think they are overrating our defensive talent. Like, our defense has some talent for sure, but we're not one of the 10 most talented defenses in the league. We're not one of the probably 15 most talented defenses in the league. Our emphasis, especially now with the way we've built this offensive line and Pat's contract, Kelsey's contract, perpetually reloading that receiver room. The focus is on the offense. So I think he does a lot with a little, especially when you look at the secondary and how cheap the Chiefs keep that. So we're going to bank that time and move on to number 9. I think you guys are going to like this one, and that is Isaiah Pacheco's development. So he emerged on the scene last year as a 7th-round sensation. And I think the kingdom immediately fell in love with him because this guy runs like he's got gum on his shoe, like he's angry at the ground, and plays hard, brings great energy, great mic'd up guy, great teammate. When he said there is no relax or ain't no relax or whatever it was in the Super Bowl, that hit me right here. I think for him to take the next step, he has to improve in pass protection to become that all-purpose. We don't really have bell cow backs anymore, but to become the closest thing we have. And I think we need him to become more of that because from where I'm sitting, CEH looks like a bust. He's one of the more inefficient backs in the league. Jerick McKinnon, he might be the oldest back in the league, him and Cordero Patterson. And then the generic Prince story, the Prince that was promised, he's very exciting, but he's a bit of a lotto ticket. I mean, can we really count on a 7th rounder and a UDFA running back 2 years in a row? Maybe it's the system, and maybe the Chiefs are just better than the rest of the league at uncovering these gem running backs. The other thing I'd like to see from him, and I think we did see some of this down the stretch, along with him getting involved in the passing game more, is more explosive runs, like in the Jaguars playoff game. He had kind of to be honest, a low breakaway run rate of 20.4%. Now, it's not the stickiest stat in the world, but he's not exactly facing stacked boxes with the way teams play Mahomes and Reed, and the kind of offenses we trot out there, 12 and 13 personnel or spreading things out. We like to force defenses basically to pick their poison. If they go into nickel or dime, we run down their throats. If they load the box, then we're going to pass all over them. But anyway, I don't think Isaiah Pacheco has the most difficult situation of most running backs, especially when you can consider our interior offensive line. I think we have the best guard center trio in the entire league. One of the things that I think could have happened to Isaiah Pacheco, he had a bad line at Rutgers. Bad offense, bad line, not a good team. And I think that limited his ability to develop vision and kind of a feel for the game. So I'm hoping that now that he's had more live bullets, that will just kind of happen naturally. So those are my thoughts on Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not too worried about his injuries. I mean, this guy has a double dose of dog in him. He might be the toughest guy in the NFL, maybe the toughest guy in the Chiefs. I don't know about the NFL, but let's not get carried away with the hyperbole here. But he is definitely one of the tougher players in the league. Number 8. We just don't need that much time. Countdown-O-Tron. Continuity for Justin Reed. So I was kind of taken aback when I heard this, I think this week. Justin Reed, in his time with the Texans and the Chiefs, he's never had the same defensive coordinator for 2 years in a row. That's pretty wild. And if you've been a Chiefs fan for a long time, this will remind you kind of what happened to Alex Smith and why Alex Smith was never really able to get it going out in the Bay, because he just never had that continuity. I think it's very important. I mean, imagine getting a new boss every single year. It would be very tough for you at your job. Oh. And I think he's kind of a big investment. Kansas City, as I pointed out, is spending less on defense. And really, I mean, along with Minihue, obviously Chris Jones, but he's one of the more expensive guys on the defense. We really need to get the ROI on that signing. But I think he played much better down the stretch once he kind of got integrated and got a feel for what Spags wants to do. Would like to see him continue to assume a leadership role. I know last year he kind of talked out of turn and got into a war of words with Jamar Chase and some of the Bengals. Jerome says, I really like Justin Reed. Seems well-spoken and a leader. I mean, very smart guy, obviously. Him and his brother. He Stanford grad, so that goes without saying. But I definitely think he has natural leadership ability, and looking forward to him kind of taking Brian Cook under his wing and helping him mature as a player. It's going to be interesting without Juan Thornhill back there for the first time in a while. No Sorensen, no Thornhill, kind of totally different unit. So I'm not too worried about them, though. I think Spags puts a high priority in that position, and that group usually performs well. Again, that's all the time I need. Let's move on to number 7, the linebacker rotation. This one's going to be super interesting. So I had to look this up. I had to find an animal that matched this metaphor. But did you know that kangaroos are incapable of moving backward? So they don't walk. They either hop or crawl. And because of their tail, it's basically like a third leg. Yeah, I guess that can be a joke if you want it to be. But they're incapable of moving backward. And that describes Leo Chanel. You get him going backwards in coverage. It is a nightmare. Yeah, just not very fluid or agile, like side to side, lateral mobility. But where he excels is as a de facto pass rusher. You get that guy going downhill, he's a freight train. And I think we might use him as a quasi edge when we do some 3-3-5 stuff. I heard in camp he was working on kind of some Melvin Ingram stand-up pass rushing, basically down on the line. So we might see some of that. Drew Tranquil is the player that I'm probably most excited out of this unit. He's new, of course, so that's part of it. But he's currently second string on the depth chart. I don't think that tells the full story. I think the reason they have Leo with that first team is he's part of the base defense. And Drew Tranquil, they're going to mix him in. I think they might use him like they used Ben Neiman. I think they might use him like they used Daniel Sorensen. Remember, he played safety at Notre Dame. So not only is he great in coverage, he's a really solid blitzer. I think he had something like 5.5 sacks last year. So he can do that as well. And what I like about Tranquil as opposed to Leo and maybe even Bolton, I think when you put Tranquil in the game, you have no clue what Spags is going to do with him. There's no telegraphing there. So Angry Drunken German, we know Tranquil will be in coverage, but will Spags send him every now and again? Yeah, I think he will. And once guys get kind of used to and get integrated with this defense, he likes to start sending them more. You notice at the end of last year, he started sending McDuffie a little bit more. So I'm excited about Drew Tranquil. Really smart player. As I've noted a couple of times, he won the NFL player chess tournament. So no dummy. Willie Gay, on the other hand, great athlete. He does get lost at times, in my opinion. Maybe the suspension last year due to his domestic incident with the vacuum and all that. Maybe that disrupted his season and kind of threw him off a little bit. I thought really by the Super Bowl, him and Nick Bolton had excellent chemistry, and that was missing at times during the season. And that might have been his best game yet. So it will be interesting to see if Willie Gay plays more or Drew Tranquil plays more. And I think it will say a lot about who the Chiefs are going to bring back. Now, Nick Bolton, don't really need to talk about him much. He's the green dot. He's the elite run stuffer. I would like to get him more breathers, though. I think he played a lot of snaps last year. I don't know if he needs to be out there and dime. Just my opinion. Nick's a tremendous player, great leader, and I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, but maybe a few less snaps.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Finally, we hear the Mitch buzzer. 6. Charles Omenihu suspension. So he was one of 2 priority free agents along with Juwan Taylor. And I think he's poised for a breakout because he had the best interior pass rush win rate in the league last season. Now, he didn't play there every down. He split time between the inside and the outside, kind of, I don't know if it was 60-40 or what, but still very impressive. And I'm guessing I certainly did not expect 6 games. I don't know if you guys did. I bet the Chiefs did. And either I kind of thought 4, maybe even 3. Alvin Kamara got 3. Now, I think the league is taking domestic violence more seriously, and I'm not going to argue with that, of course. And my hope is that they just are a little more consistent with these suspensions because they've been all over the place in the past. Can get kind of annoying. But what this is going to do, it's going to cause Felix and Udike Uzoma and George Karlaftis to grow up faster. They're going to have to step up right off the bat. And I think we saw some signs of life from George late last season, from Furious George. Evan says, I expected 4, 6 shocked me. Yeah. The interesting thing there, too, is I think he has to play 70% of snaps to get his bonus. And with this suspension, I mean, he would basically have to play every single down when he came back. And he probably even still wouldn't hit it. So I wonder if that's part of why the Chiefs structured the contract that way. In addition to Karlaftis in his second year and FAU in his first year, Mike Dana. So low key, I think he was kind of the top edge rusher last year, certainly per play. And PFF graded him as such. I think he's become a fan favorite because he was one of these guys because of his, he doesn't have the greatest testing numbers from the combine or the most amazing measurables, but he plays his freaking guts out. And he is just, his technique is sound. He's durable. He's a hard worker. He's a smart guy, real kind of lunch pail guy. We're going to need him to be very steady this year and probably the biggest role he's had yet. His snaps are almost certainly going to get increased, probably directly because of this Omenihu suspension. The silver lining here with Omenihu, I guess, if we're really digging deep, is that Frank Clark's suspension helped him stay healthy. And it also helped Karlaftis kind of mature and come into his own a little bit faster out of necessity. So FAU and Karlaftis are going to see some live bullets. FAU maybe sooner than expected. Right now, he's 3rd on the depth chart. I think he's going to work his way up that pretty quickly and be on second team. The thing to watch is when the cuts happen as the preseason winds down, will a veteran pass rusher get released that the Chiefs have interest in and ultimately sign? Or they've made trade deadline deals 2 years in a row. One of those deals was bringing in defensive end Melvin Ingram. So that could be an option too, especially if they extend Chris Jones and create a little cap room. I can't say that I'm not nervous about this group. I would like a little bit more depth. I would like a little more experience maybe. But we're just going to have to roll with what we've got. The Chiefs seem confident. I mean, that is worth noting here, that the Chiefs seem confident. But I'm going to remain nervous.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
Number 5, Travis Kelce's age. I hate to bring it up, but if we're being honest and looking at the things that will truly decide whether the Chiefs repeat or not, I mean, it doesn't get much more important than this. So he had career highs in receptions and yards, 110 for 1,338. Just amazing year, especially considering everyone thought, well, Tyreek is not here. So now all the defensive focus will be on number 87. Surely he's going to regress or step back a little bit. No, he was better. Didn't matter. It doesn't matter what defenses do. He just has that innate ability, that je ne sais quoi. Like he just understands the game and has something to him that nobody else has. Just a once in a generation player. Can't gush enough. But he's the first tight end 33 or older to post 1,000 yards since 1967. Just crazy. So what he's doing right now, there's no precedent for it. No one's done this before. So he's already defying the odds. We're already playing with house money. So on one hand, he's a unicorn, but on the other hand, he's fighting history. I think he can continue to win that battle, but is it one more year? Is it 2 more years? I mean, 3 more years, pinch yourself. But part of the key here, in my opinion, is to borrow from the NBA lexicon. It's load management, right? Let's play Noah Gray a little bit more. Tight ends come along slowly, but he's now going to be in his 3rd season. I really like what I saw out of him last year. I think he's going to kind of take over some of those fullback responsibilities too. Let's get Travis a little less snaps. Let's make sure he rolls into the winter feeling good. I know last season in the AFC Championship, I mean, his back was so bad that, and as an older guy, compared to the players, I definitely understand that. I mean, I've been having a tight back this week. It is not fun. I don't know how you go out there and play against the Cincinnati Bengals defense with a back that was like locked up that morning. These guys are incredible specimens. But let's take it easy on Trav. I'm not saying like put him in bubble wrap like I would recommend with Kadarius Toney and Sammy Watkins. That's not necessary. But I see Travis out here like, getting really physical, and the defense is getting really physical with him. He's punching helmets. Dude, if you break your hand, we're all screwed. So please stop punching helmets. That's really all I have to say on Trav. I just think he's the greatest to ever do it. 7 years of consecutive years of 1,000-yard seasons. No tight end comes close to that. Let's see number 8 this year and ride the GOAT back to the promised land. Let's move on to number 4. And that's cornerback stability. Another thing I'm a little nervous about is this L'Jarius Sneed, the chronic knee pain and swelling. It just seems like it's been a problem all spring, all summer, and it's still a problem. And with the other 3 corners, the other 3 top corners being second-year players, this position is such a roller coaster. There's so much variance. Even superstars like Jalen Ramsey and AJ Terrell have had years where they played bad, for them at least. And I don't think we can expect Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson just to automatically be as good or especially better than they were last year. I mean, for this particular position, it's not like Madden. It's not like franchise mode in Madden where players you can count on them like clockwork, getting better every single year. It doesn't work like that. I think even L'Jarius Sneed himself had a little bit of a sophomore slump, not a big one, but I thought he took a tiny step back. I don't know what that was. If it was health, if it was the league having more tape on him, if it was additional responsibilities. So I think this year we're going to find out if the Charvarius Ward, letting him walk was a mistake. Because last year it looked like a home run. Now, I don't think Ward was terribly expensive when he played like a top 10 corner last season for the Niners. But I mean, when you're getting rookies holding up in the Super Bowl and winning a championship that way, it's hard to argue with that success story. The other person to watch here is Ball State rookie Nick Jones. Can maybe he bolster this unit and be another guy that earns snaps? Angry Drunken German says if Snead takes a step back, we might be able to afford him. Yeah, it's possible. Now, I think one of the big developments with this group, maybe this is hot take-ish, but I think Trent McDuffie has surpassed Snead. Maybe not as an all-around defensive back. Snead is such a Swiss Army knife that I'm not ready to say McDuffie's the better player or the more useful player. But when it comes to man-on-man coverage against some of the top guys in the league, I think McDuffie's a little bit better there. Now, I know Snead travels some with elite receivers. He did so with DK Metcalf, and who wants that assignment? That guy's built like a Greek god. And he hung in there, but I didn't think he looked sensational against DK Metcalf. I do have a lot of faith in Snead, but I think Trent McDuffie is one of these guys who has the just feel for the position and the fluidity. I think he's got a little bit more like hip wiggle than Snead. You've seen him do a pretty good job on Jamar freaking Chase. So I think maybe we're seeing the passing of the guard here, and I'm not sure Snead will be back. I'd like for him to be back, but Trent McDuffie allowed just 10.1 yards per reception on the year. Pretty astounding number for a rookie, especially a rookie who missed half the season with, I believe, was a hamstring issue that the Chiefs just definitely slow played. And I don't know. Can we afford to bring Snead back? I guess that will be determined after the season. And it's also dependent on how well Snead plays, like that was pointed out by the comments. Yeah, let's just hope his health holds up, because this group is a little bit more shallow than I'd like. But regardless,
Touchdown, Kansas City.
The Chiefs, their special sauce, what they have done so good at is keeping the secondary cheap and finding these late round gems. So I'm not going to doubt Brett Veach and his staff when it comes to the long-term plan for that unit. I do have a little bit more doubt for the third item on our list, and that's the wide receiver room. We now have the depth chart and some clarity, and that kind of maybe slows training camp video hype season a little bit, because Rasheed, he's on the second team. Justin Ross is on the third team now. Could move up over the course of time, but I think players in their first year, very, very hard to impress Andy Reid enough with his complex offense to get on the field. So what we're seeing is Sky in the slot, Kadarius and Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the outside. Who knows when Kadarius will be back? I recently compared him to Kenny from South Park. It's like he can't get through an episode, right? I was really high on Kadarius coming into the season. My hope was he's really bought in. I thought they lost him in New York before Dable and that new regime got there, back with Gettleman and Joe Judge, who just had no clue what he was doing. I thought they lost Kadarius, and maybe that contributed to his body having issues. And I thought our training staff did such a wonderful job with Juju Smith-Schuster. Said it was a miracle that he played in the Super Bowl. I think the work they did with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know if they deserve the Pulitzer, the Nobel Prize, like anything you can give them, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Like when he had that high ankle sprain against the Jaguars, I thought the season was up in smoke. Thank God it wasn't. He's built like Gumby. He's tough as nails, and we have a great training staff. But they weren't able to fix Kadarius Toney, apparently. So unfortunately, I think we have maybe another tantalizing but defective product, similar to Sammy Watkins. I mean, God, do we really have to go through this again? And I guess the hope with Kadarius Toney is that he can give us half a season and stay healthy in the playoffs. MVS, he's going to give us his 750 yards like clockwork, 45 receptions, stretch the field. Maybe there's an uptick there if he and Mahomes have a little better chemistry, right? Because, oh shit, it's getting crazy again outside. Because last year they just weren't on the same page when it came to their deep ball chemistry. And if they can get on the same page and work that out this season, maybe he can get up to the 800, 900 yard range. I kind of doubt it. The Chiefs have said he's something that a receiver that they see having a full route tree. I don't see that either. But let's hope for the best. With Rasheed and Justin Ross, I think we'll just have to see how they play in the preseason. If they, blow people's socks off and come out and look like stars, maybe they'll force Andy's hands. Maybe they'll get in the lineup. They'll crack the lineup sooner than expected. Also, injuries. Kadarius is already hurt. We saw last year when a plague ripped through our receiver room in the AFC Championship that can force guys into action, as it did Sky Moore. Sky Moore is who I expect to lead this group in touches. And I'm growing more confident in him. We had friend of the show, Matt Harmon from Reception Perception on, and he gave
Kansas City.
I'm going to run a little long on this one. He gave Sky his stamp of approval, and that made me feel a lot better about him. But also, small school player, early declare, really tough offense. I think for him to do what Juju Smith-Schuster did out of the slot last year, like just under 1,080 receptions, if he's healthy the whole season, that doesn't seem that wild to me, because Patrick Mahomes is going to spread the ball around, but he's also looking for that new second security blanket when Travis Kelce is drawing all the attention. Let's move on to number 2, offensive tackle play. Another big worry of Chiefs Kingdom. And to tell you the truth, I'm not worried about us running the ball. Not at all. Because like I said earlier, the fear of Mahomes and Reed, that gives us light boxes, right? And even though Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith are weak run blockers, I don't think that matters. I don't think it's going to hold back the running game because of all our talent, the schematic versatility, and just, again, Mahomes and Reed, they were brought here to pass block. That's why they were brought to Kansas City. And I think, especially if Donovan Smith is healthy, because he had a laundry list of injuries last year, I think they can be better pass blockers than Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr. Now, I don't think they're going to be better run blockers, but that's not how championships are won, right? And again, we have the best interior line in football, so that helps the running game too. Taylor, he ranked 7th in PFF's pass blocking efficiency stat last year. That's why he got the big money. Teams are projecting a little bit, hopefully not wish casting, hopefully projecting accurately, but a lot of upside for him to be one of the best pass blocking tackles in all of football on either side. You're seeing sort of the opinion of left tackle versus right tackle. left tackle is still more valuable, but we don't think about this the way we did 10 years ago, where the left tackle was arguably, after the quarterback, the most important person on the team by far, and the right tackle was sort of an afterthought. I mean, we all know how important Mitchell Schwartz was to that first Super Bowl run and how valuable he was, being the best player at his position over a pretty decent chunk of time. And then there's Smith, who, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Donovan Smith was terrible last year. He was awful. He was god awful. But Tampa Bay was in meltdown mode. You could see it in Brady's body language. That team was cooked. All right. They have a lot of talent, but when your offensive line falls apart, and it's a little bit of poetic justice that they won their Super Bowl because our offensive line fell apart. And then the end of Brady was because their offensive line fell apart. But, offensive line continuity is not to be underestimated. And we all saw the dip in Orlando Brown Jr.'s play when he had to go out there without Joe Thuney as that anchor beside him. And I think Joe Thuney, my God, Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey got left off the NFL top 100 list. The Chiefs only get 3 players. They win the Super Bowl and they only get 3 players on that list. Anyway, just a little tangent, but I couldn't believe that. Joe Thuney is going to make life very easy, I think, compared to what he had last year, Donovan Smith had. And let's hope we see a resurgence, because in 2021, Smith graded out as PFF's 6th best pass blocking tackle. That year was his best year in the league. So we're not that far removed from it. If we can get him back to, just 80% of that, and Donovan Smith is our 5th best lineman, our worst lineman, you know how many teams would die to trade places with us, would crawl over broken glass? Probably 25, 26. Very good offensive line. Come on, Mitch.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
All right. Here's what we've all been waiting for, and that is the next Mahomes evolution. I'm guessing it feels like everybody saw Queen's Gambit, right? Big fan of that Netflix show, but there's a scene where chess prodigy Beth Harmon, she plays against 12 players at once. And in my opinion, that's what Patrick Mahomes is doing, but he's doing it with 31 defensive coordinators who are constantly trying to crowdsource a way to stop the greatest talent the league has ever seen. And they've had a little bit of success. We saw that too high stuff that kind of got the Chiefs in a funk a couple of seasons ago to start off. And they've had to sort of evolve. So the initial Mahomes 1.0, very vertical offense with the Legion of Zoom there, and won a Super Bowl, right? But when they took that away, when defenses took that away, he had to shift. He had to become more patient. He had to take what was given to him underneath, and it was more short, intermediate stuff. That's why Juju fit in so well last year. The yak attack from last season, most yards after the catch in 15 years in the entire league. Also, 31 passing TDs to backs and tight ends. That is the most in the Super Bowl era. So if you're going to make him be a bit of a check down Charlie, he's going to do it better than anybody has ever done it. And what do I think the next evolution for Patrick Mahomes is? Here's what I think it is. Improving at beating defenses pre-snap. Getting to the point where he's like Neo, just in the Matrix, just looking at agents and just seeing all the green code. That's where he has to get, where he knows how to beat you before the ball's even snapped. And I think this is what made Breeze, Manning, Brady, and now Rodgers so great as they got up there into their 30s. And now we're seeing 40s. And my God, I hope with the advances in recovery science, that Mahomes is going to play into his 40s too, because if that's the case, we've got about 15 more years. But he's just getting started, guys. He's what, 27 years old? I mean, he's a pup. And just look at guys like Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Kirk Cousins. A lot of why I think they've become slightly above average quarterbacks in this league is just the amount of time they've had. You know, Kirk Cousins and those other guys sort of lucked out, and they've played a lot of games, thrown a lot of passes. And even someone with marginal talent like that, if you give them that much experience, they're going to start to crack the code. So imagine what happens when you have someone like Patrick Mahomes' ability, who accumulates that experience and starts to crack the code himself, especially with an offensive mind like Andy Reid. I don't think the swap of Matt Nagy for Eric Bieniemy, they're not going to lose a step. You know, they're going to be the same old machine, well-oiled machine. I also want to say before we go, man, I thought it was bullshit what Ron Rivera did to Eric Bieniemy yesterday. He basically threw him under the bus for being a kind of hard-nosed coach.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
You guys know how we do things in Kansas City during training camp. It is grueling. It is demanding. It is, it's just the hardest training camp in the league. And we've had great results. You cannot argue with the results. I was glad McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill and some of the Chiefs stood up for EB. It's just really sad because I think EB has had some discrimination when it comes to moving up the ranks and trying to become a head coach in the NFL. And before the season even starts, to have Ron Rivera, his head coach, just kind of throw him under the bus, I don't think that was really helpful to him having more upward mobility. So, but we'll see what happens there. I do fully expect that Washington offense to be better because I think he's a good coach, but also they have weapons. Antonio Gibson is a good weapon. Terry McLaurin, maybe the most underrated receiver in the league. Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. Like our own Patrick Allen said, once a Chief, always a Chief. I think there are some limitations to that. If you go to an AFC West foe, that's canceled. But I think we're all rooting for EB in Washington. That's all I've got for you guys today on the solo show. So until next Wacky Wednesday, signing off for Richard, I'm Adam. Go Chiefs.